Today I'm going to show you guys how to make this American flag in Fusion 360. You actually print it flat and then heat it up in the oven at the end and then shape it with this mold I created. I'm not going to show you how to make the mold today, but you can find it in the links in the description. Okay, now that we're in Fusion 360, the first step is to import your SVG into Fusion 360. Now there's many ways to obtain an SVG of a picture. There's websites you can upload your JPEG to and it'll automatically turn it into an SVG. You can create your own SVGs, SVG files using Illustrator and other programs. So I'm not going to cover that in this video. I already have my SVG, and if you need help creating SVG, I can make a tutorial on that as well. So the flag that I showed at the beginning of this video, my American flag, that's what we're going to make in this tutorial. And that flag needs to be about 170 millimeters by 90 millimeters. That is what that mold that shapes the flag at the end, that's the size of flag you need for that mold. Of course, you can make your mold or your flag any size you want, but that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to create a sketch on this face. I'm going to hit R for rectangle. Come over here and click the center rectangle and start at the origin, and I'm going to type in 90 millimeters. I'm going to hit tab and type in 170 millimeters and hit enter, and then I'm going to finish the sketch. Now I need to create a new sketch to import my SVG on. I don't want to import it on the same as this because this outer rectangle will screw me up. So it really is just a guide to show me where that flag needs to be placed, or how big that flag needs to be scaled. So I'm going to create a new sketch. We'll just go right on that other sketch, insert SVG. From my computer, I've got my USA flag. I'm going to drag this little square up to the corner here. And again, we're just getting it close. It just needs to be about that size. It really just can't be over that size. So that's pretty close. So I'll hit OK. And if we go over to our sketches, we can turn that first square off. Now, it's really important to check your SVG file to make sure it plays well with Fusion and that everything is right on it. I learned the hard way that this SVG is not quite right. If you zoom all the way into this little line, I have an extra line right here that really screwed me up the last time. So I'm going to click on that line and I'm going to hit the delete button. And now this SVG is pretty much perfect. Okay, so I'm going to finish the sketch, and now we are going to create some bodies, some solid bodies. Now this flag is going to be 2 millimeters thick in total, but I'm going to make it in two parts, each 1 millimeter thick, and I'll kind of explain why afterwards. So the first step is to create all separate bodies from all of this. And now you don't want to get in here and individually click on each star and extrude it up. You want to be able to select these all at once, and I'll show you a little trick. So let's select everything but these stars. So I'm going to click and drag to select the stripes. I'm going to hold shift and click in this blue area. So I have everything selected but the stars. I can come up to select, selection tools, invert selection, and now only the stars are selected. So we can hit E for extrude, and then you can just type 1 for 1 millimeter. Make sure new body is selected and hit OK. Okay, a lot of times when you extrude, your sketch will turn off or become not visible anymore. I always say turn off, but it just means it's not visible. So you click the little eye here to make it visible again. And so now we want to extrude the rest of this up, making sure that every part is its own body. So I'm going to click every other stripe so none of these are touching each other. And I'm going to hit E for extrude, hit 1, type in 1 for 1 millimeter, make sure new body, hit OK. And this is really important when you're doing a complicated flag like this. It's not important right now, but it will be important when you go to color this in your slicer program, when you 3D print this. So we're going to go to bodies, and you can see the first probably 50 bodies, I guess, would be the stars. So if I click that, that's a star. 51 is a stripe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So I'm going to just type in red 1 R2 for red 2, R3, R4, R5, R6, and R7. And this is just going to let me know that this body needs to be red. Okay, so now I'm going to click the white stripes. I'm going to hold shift as I click through these. This one will be just a touch different if you're not used to how extrude works. You're going to hit E for extrude. You're going to type in 1. And now since it's extruding up and touching the other bodies, what it wants to do is join them all together, and that will leave all of these stripes as one body. You do not want that to happen, so you have to make sure you click new body and hit OK. And you can see it added the white stripes down here. So now I'm going to click W1 and so forth, just to make sure we know these are going to be white. If you have a much less complicated flag, you do not need to do this naming. I'm not going to name the stars because anything that's just named body, I will know has to be a white star. I just want to make sure my stripes are named so it's easier to figure this out. Okay, let's go up to the top. Then we have to extrude this still. So this is the blue around it. So I'll hit E and then type in 1. And again, it's going to want to join this because it's touching the stars and the stripes. And if you hit join, all of this will become, anything that this blue is touching will become one whole body. And I don't know where there, it just disappeared on me. So new body, hit OK. Okay, let's select our body, scroll all the way to the bottom, and here's our blue. So I'm just going to type in blue because it's the only thing that's blue on this flag. And we can turn our sketch off. Okay, so now we have our flag that's 1 millimeter thick. And you could leave it here and you could print this just as is. What I have found, especially with the United States flag, with all of these horizontal lines, is that this flag will break apart really easily. When you 3D print this in multiple colors, let's say you have your perimeter or your outer rim, or I guess whatever you call it, your perimeter, how many outer shells you have. It'll do that for every stripe. So if you have 3 perimeter lines, it'll do 3 perimeters for this stripe, 3 perimeters for this stripe, and so on. 3 for the flag, 3 for this blue, and so forth. And when you print it and when it gets cold and you take it off the plate, I found that it will easily break along these lines. You can literally just bend it and they just snap off. So what we want to do is create a support layer in the middle. Think of like a grilled cheese sandwich. This flag is one of the pieces of bread. We're going to add a piece of cheese on top that kind of melts and holds it all together, and then we're going to do another piece of bread. So there's kind of a trick to doing this. There's probably more than one ways to do this, but this is kind of how I do it. So we want to make a copy of all of these bodies. So I'm going to select the whole thing. I'm going to hit the Move tool, which is M on your keyboard. I want to make sure Free Move or Translate is selected, and I'm going to make sure Create Copy is selected. And then I'm just going to grab, once it catches up, it's frozen on me, I'm going to grab and go down a little bit. Now I don't want to hit Enter yet, because now we're going to do a different Move tool, which is Point to Point. And I'm going to click on the top corner of this flag and the bottom corner of this flag. And then I can hit OK. And let it do its thing. And now you can see I made a little sandwich. And now this is 2 millimeters thick. So the next step is to create the support layer in the middle. And you don't want that support layer to go all the way to the edge, because then you will see it. It'll kind of break up these red and white stripes in the middle, which isn't ideal. So we're going to kind of embed it in the middle. And so I want to draw a square. I want to create a sketch in the middle of these bodies. So I'm going to turn this whole top layer off. So if I click on body 1, scroll all the way down, and remember blue was the last one, so I'll hold shift and click on blue. You can right click and hide. And now only that bottom layer is showing. So let's create a sketch. So I'm going to do a construction plane off of anything. You can click on any of these, just click on one of the stripes and hit OK. And then let's go to create sketch, click on that plane. Now, since this isn't completely centered at the origin, because remember we scaled this flag, and so it's not exactly centered at this origin, I want to create an offset 1 millimeter inside this flag. And to do that, we're going to use a kind of a special feature in sketching. It's really, really handy. I use it all the time. It's called project include. We're going to project basically parts of this body onto my sketch. So I'm going to click project. I don't want to project the bodies. I want to project just features or entities, and you can leave projection link off. So now we're going to go and click on the outer edge of all of this flag and make sure you're just getting that outer edge. If you do accidentally click on a stripe, you can just click it again to unselect it. You do not need to hold shift here. As I click, you can see 7 selected. It starts adding it right there. Zoom out, zoom in, and get these. Again, there might be a better way of selecting these, but this won't take very long. Okay. Now I'm going to hit OK. And if we scroll up here and minimize these bodies, turn the bodies off, you can see I made that square. And that square is the exact outside of this flag. So let's turn bodies off for a moment. Now we're going to use the offset tool, and so you click offset while you're still under the sketch. You click on the outer square and it creates an offset, and we can change it however we want. You can see it's a positive number going this way and a negative number going this way. And remember, we want a 1 millimeter offset. So I'm going to hit -1 and then hit OK. And there I've created my inner square. So now we can finish sketch. And now I want to turn both bodies back on. So make this visible. We're going to shift click all of these and make show hide that visible. And now we want to select that sketch. So let's just turn all the bodies off again. And this is really important, the steps that I'm doing here. I want to select this inner square, turn bodies back on. And what we're going to do is we're going to hollow out a section in the middle of this flag. The flag is 2 millimeters thick, and so I want this support layer in the middle to be 0.8 millimeters thick, which would be 4 layers high on a 3D printer that's printing at 0.2 millimeters. That will give us 0.6 millimeters up top, 0.6 millimeters on the bottom, which is 3 layers of color for 3D printing, which should be plenty. So now that we have that middle layer selected, you can hit E for extrude. We don't want to just extrude up. We want to extrude both ways. So we're going to go to direction, symmetric. And you can either choose to type in the half. So if you want this to go 8 millimeter or 0.8 millimeters total, you can either have this clicked and type in 0.4, which means it'll go 0.4 up and 0.4 down, which is 0.8. Or if you have this one clicked, which is the whole length, you type in 0.8. And the important part here is you want to make sure you hit cut. We're going to cut away from all of these bodies. And that's why it's really important to have these bodies turned on or visible, is because if they were not visible, it would not cut away from the body. So let's see what we just did. Let's inspect the center of this flag. So come up to inspect, section analysis. You click on the side of the flag, and then you can drag this arrow in and hit OK. And now you can see there is a hollow section in this flag. Now let's create the support layer, and we do that the same way we did before, but instead of hitting cut, we create new body. So I have that section analysis turned on. That's why you're seeing the cutaway, and the sketch is visible now. So I can click on that middle square, hit E for extrude, and we're going to do symmetric again, and we're going to do the whole thickness of it is going to be 0.8. And we want to make sure, this is going to switch to join because remember it's touching all of these bodies. We want to make sure we click new body and hit OK. Let's turn the sketch off. And now you can see we created that body in here. And if we turn the analysis off, you can see that it's buried within the flag. Okay, so let's go to the body here. We want to scroll all the way down and make sure it should be the last body on the list. We're going to write support layer, and that will also be important when we go over to our slicer. Okay, so the flag is done. You could stop here and then bring it into your slicer and color it. If you don't know how to do that, I can show you how I do it with Bamboo Labs because I have a Bamboo P1P. So what we do is you go to the very top folder and you right click, save as mesh, send a 3D print utility, which is my Bamboo Labs application, so it sends it it sends it automatically there. If it doesn't, you could just click this and just save it as a 3MF. So you want to make sure this is 3MF, and then hit OK. It's going to take a second to open up Bamboo Studios, and I'm going to show you how we color this and what settings I use. So this is just giving a warning that it's just going to load the geometry. Hit OK. It's going to load as a single object having multiple parts. So yes. And here is our flag. I do not want to update right now. Okay. So let's color this flag. And this, you're going to see why it was really important to name those bodies. So I have our colors loaded up. So this represents you could hit another one, which we're not using the fourth one. So I'll just delete it. But I have my red, white, and blue loaded up into my AMS. First slot, second slot, third slot. I'm going to click Objects. If you saved the flag in Fusion 360, this would be named whatever flag you named it. So Body 1. Remember, anything that's named Body is going to be white, which is a lot of things. So I actually want to click on the very top, which selects the whole thing, and I'm just going to hit the number 2. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to click 2 for every one of these. Since the majority of the items are white, let's just start off as the whole thing being white. So let's scroll all the way down. This gets put in alphabetical order, at least close to it. Our support layer, which remember is in the middle, we want to keep that white because it's the lightest color. And we don't want a dark color to bleed through the top. So we keep that white, and now we know this has to be blue, so we can hit type 1, push the down arrow, 1, and here's red, so we can hit 3, and we just keep going down the line, coloring these as we go. And then that's white, so those can stay white. And I think that's it. Let's just double check to make sure everything's right. Yeah, look at that. So we have the two sides of the flag. Okay, so this is the right orientation of the flag. So we want to make sure this is printed down. So let's go back to global because everything is colored correctly. And we're going to click on the object, lay on face, and then we click on this face because we want that face down. And then you can click off. So now the right side of the flag is printed face down, which is what you want because that's the better side. And as far as settings go, I actually have a preset. Of course, I spelled it wrong. Flag prints, PLA. But I'll go through some of the settings. I do have ironing turned on, which will make this back side of the flag look a lot better. You do not have to turn that on. You can keep that turned off. Ironing it will add about an hour to the print time. So if you don't want to waste that hour, if you're never going to see the back, if it's going to be sitting on a shelf or something, just turn this off. Some other settings that I have changed is wall loops. I only have 2. You could probably take this down to 1 even because the wall loops aren't going to add any strength here because this is going to be a completely solid print. And the way we get this to be a solid print is through the top shell layers and the bottom shell layers. Now remember, this is 2 millimeters thick. And if we're printing at 0.2 layer height, if we do 5 top shell layers and 5 bottom shell layers, that will equal 2 millimeters, and this will be solid. And let me slice this, and you'll see what this looks like. So let me hit slice. And there it is. You can turn seams off just because they're kind of distracting, and turn this up. So it's showing the 10th layer, and we'll scroll down to the 9th, the 8th, and then here is that support layer. And you can see how it is embedded into the flag. And I believe that's 4 layers thick. And then we have 3 layers of the bottom side. And you can see what I was talking about earlier. Every color has its own wall loops or outer wall. So since we have 2 wall loops here, these all have 2. And this would easily break apart at these seams if you did not have the cheese or the support layers in the middle. And so that's why I added that. So let's hit, we already hit slice, so this will take 1 hour and 46 minutes. The next video I'm going to show is from a TikTok video, so it's in a upright orientation, but it shows me taking the print off of the P1P printer and doing the whole molding and shaping and warming up in the oven. So go ahead and watch that if you want, and you can see kind of how it gets finished. But I think we'll end the tutorial here, and if you have any questions, let me know. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions or if you have better ways of doing this, let me know, and we'll see you next time.